Let's talk about how you can make your social media posts last so much longer than the usual fleeting minutes or maybe hours if you're lucky. Did you know that there are some great features on the main social media platforms to give longevity to your top posts and put them in front of your audience for as long as you want to? Listen to this week's episode to find out more.
Welcome to the Content 10X Podcast, the show where content creators learn how to harness the power of content repurposing. And now, your host, Amy Woods.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Content 10X Podcast. I'm your host, Amy Woods, and this week we are talking about how you can make your posts on social media go so much further, and also some great repurposing tips in here as well. I think social media is brilliant. It's the best way to make a genuine connection with your audience, meet new people. It gives you the option to create such a huge variety of varied types of content, and there's always the possibility to try new things. But social media is not perfect. I'm sure the people dealing with and impacted by the Facebook Cambridge Analytica data scandal would agree with that. Now, don't worry, that's not what I'm here to talk about today. But one of the downsides of social media is that it's so fleeting. The lifespan of a tweet is about 18 minutes. Facebook posts peter out after 2.5 hours. The Instagram stories that we post last for 24 hours. And Instagram main posts fare a little bit better at roughly 48 hours. So when you have something important or especially impressive to share, it can feel a bit disappointing sometimes to see it disappear into the social media ether so quickly. Now, on the one hand, that's what social media is all about, right? We're writing a tweet, not a novel. We're designing an Instagram graphic, not the Sistine Chapel. Or we're shooting a short video for stories, not filming the next Spielberg movie. But nonetheless, sometimes we share content and we really do wish that there was more longevity. Well, good news, there are ways that you can preserve your highlights on social media, give them more staying power than the rest of your content. And each platform has its own way of letting you preserve and display your top content, your highlights, for longer than the fleeting nature of a post. And good news, I've come up with some repurposing ideas for how you can really use these features to their full potential. And also, what's so good about what I'm about to take you through is that by doing all of this, you can get control of the experience people have when they check you out on social media. First impressions count so much. And even if it's not the first impression, even if someone has known you for a while, maybe they've decided to now take a closer look at you and your profile. Maybe they're finally looking at you with a buying hat on. So let's try and make their experience the best possible, and let's try and control that experience. So let's take a look at some of the ways to do this on the main platforms. Let's look at LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. How do you share your highlights on LinkedIn? So LinkedIn offers a pretty unique way of sharing your highlights. LinkedIn has something called a featured section, and this displays in your profile, so anyone looking at your profile will see this featured section. And this is where you want to display the content that you want to showcase. So here you can feature your LinkedIn posts, LinkedIn articles that you've posted, links to different websites, or upload media. So you can upload photographs or documents. Now, how do you use this? On your LinkedIn profile, you should have a button that says Add Profile Section. And on that drop down, you can choose to add content to your featured section. Or simply in your profile, scroll down to the featured section and click the plus button to add content to it. Now, using your featured section basically means that you can pin content to your profile and repurpose it into a main feature on your profile. So this is a great opportunity to share lots of your best content and create some positive feedback loops. It's also fantastic for sharing social proof. So here are a few of my ideas of what you can post into your LinkedIn featured section. So firstly, add your best performing posts. They'll serve as great proof of your influence on LinkedIn, and also mean you might get more likes and comments on it over time, even after the initial buzz has died down. If you share articles on LinkedIn, and I really recommend that you do, then you can also pin one of them to your featured section. Now, like with your best performing post, choose an article that's had really good reactions and generated discussions and represents you really well. If you have a case study or a guide or a similar resource, maybe a PDF, make use of that in the media element of your featured section. You could even go as far as linking to a unique landing page on your website for people to visit when they go to your profile. So this is like a little hidden Easter egg in your profile. If you're a podcaster, then link to your podcast. If you're a YouTuber, link to your YouTube channel. This is your chance to show, not just tell what you do. Create eye-catching client testimonial images and share them there, or better still, testimonial videos if you can ask your clients to create testimonial videos. Now, you can't upload videos, but you can add a video link. So upload the video to YouTube or Vimeo or wherever, and then add that link so people can see that video. Another bonus of your featured section is that it breaks up your profile with a bit of colour and excitement and something different. So if people only view your profile really quickly, you need to capture their attention as best you can. And the featured section full of highlights can really make you stand out. Now, the possibilities are endless and you can really make an impact. So get creative and think about the ways you can show off your highlights on the featured section of your LinkedIn profile. Hey, just a little break from this podcast episode to ask you a question. Would you like one single place that you can go to that provides you with everything you need to be able to implement the best practices in content repurposing for your video content, your podcast episodes, and your social media content today? To help you get more value from the content that you create, get more time back, and help you reach more people than you ever thought possible. If so, then you are going to love the Content 10x Toolkit. The toolkit is full of video tutorials, templates, checklists, swipe files, step-by-step guides, and more that shows you how to repurpose your content in the best ways possible today. No more Googling, no more figuring it out yourself. We provide you with everything that you need to become a content repurposing pro. If this sounds like something that would interest you, then go check out the Content 10x Toolkit at content10x.com/toolkit. Okay, and back to this week's episode. Now, moving over to Instagram, how do you share your highlights on Instagram? Now, Instagram really is a cut above the rest when it comes to highlights. They actually have a dedicated highlights feature for Instagram stories content so that your best stories don't disappear after 24 hours, but instead they go on and live in your Instagram profile as long as you want. So if you look at your profile on Instagram, you should see below the top section of the profile and above the main grid, there's the highlights folders. And each folder shows a circular image with a title. Now, to create highlights on Instagram, you need to upload the content you want to your stories first. And once you've done that, you can add stories to the highlights at any time, even after they've disappeared from public view. And the process is really, really simple. So you go to your profile and tap Story Highlights below your bio. Tap the plus sign and then select the story or stories that you want to add to this highlights folder. Then tap Next, tap Edit Cover and select a cover photo for your highlight, give it a name and finish up and you have a highlights folder. Or just share your content in stories, and in the bottom right hand side once published, you can tap on the word highlight and either create new highlights or add to an existing highlights folder. There are so many amazing ways to use Instagram highlights, and everyone will find a different way to use it for themselves. And I think that's the beauty of them. They're so adaptable and can be used for so many different purposes. So here's just a few examples of how you could use Instagram stories highlights feature. So if you upload stories to preview your podcast episodes, if you have a podcast like me, then create a podcast episodes highlight folder. This will give your audience a quick and easy place to search for your podcast content. And if you have lots of episodes, then maybe consider categorizing these folders or having the most recent 10 episodes in a highlights folder, whatever you think would work to showcase your podcast episodes. You could make an FAQs highlight folder. Now, I don't mean copying and pasting the FAQs FAQs from your website, but more so taking time to design engaging FAQ images, or you could shoot short videos where you answer some of the frequently asked questions that you get asked. And this could be a really great way to then signpost people over to the FAQ section on your Instagram profile, where they'll get to have a look at you answering some of these questions in a really engaging way and in a really creative way as well. Of course, create a social proof folder, share client testimonials, share quote images, share videos of your clients, share screenshots of great things that have gone on with your service or your product. So highlights can be wonderful for sharing testimonials and social proof as well. If you are a speaker, then you could share some video footage of you speaking on stages and photographs as well. So have a folder showing off your time on stage delivering your talks. But it's really up to you. I think it comes down to thinking about how you can categorize your content and what you want to share. Then you can start adding appropriate content and creating appropriate highlights folders. And of course, you can create ad hoc temporary highlights folders as well. For example, the content doesn't need to be there forever. Maybe it could be for the duration of a promotion that you're running or something like that as well. So that's Instagram. How do you share your highlights on Facebook? So Facebook has stories just like Instagram, which makes sense as they're both Facebook products. So you can turn your Facebook stories into highlights just as you can on Instagram, and exactly the same rules apply and the same ideas work there as well. But there are also some other ways you can show off your social media highlights on Facebook. So you can pin a post to the top of your business page. Some people use pinned posts to highlight a big announcement, a service update, or a popular post. Whatever you choose as your pinned post, it'll be the first content people see as they scroll down your page. Now, all you have to do is select the post you want to pin, tap the three dots at the top right of the post and select pin to top of page. You can also use your cover photo and page header to share highlights of important news. For example, my page header got updated to promote my book and my toolkit as well. So when you have important announcements, think about your page header and profile images as well. Okay, so moving on to Twitter. How do you share your highlights on Twitter? My advice for sharing your highlights on Twitter is pretty similar to Facebook. Now, at the time I'm recording this, Twitter is trialing Fleets, which is basically a stories feature on the platform, but it hasn't been released yet, so I have no idea whether that'll let you use highlights like Instagram and Facebook. But what I do know though is that you can pin tweets and use your cover photo and header just as you can on Facebook. So again, think about the most important or impactful tweet you want people to see when they visit your profile. Once you know what you want to pin, click the arrow that is at the top right of your tweet and select pin to your profile. So through a combination of pinning those tweets you'd rather last longer than 18 minutes and updating your header, you can have control over the experience people have when they check you out on Twitter. Now, I really hope these suggestions have given you something new to try out on the social media platforms. Let's make some of our best content live on social media for much longer, and let's control the experience people have when they check us out, especially for the first time. Okay, all that's left to say is thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Content 10X podcast. I really appreciate you taking the time to tune in. Now, if you haven't got a copy yet, then please do get a copy of my book, Content 10X, More Content, Less Time, Maximum Results. It really is the ultimate guide to repurposing every type of content. And if you want someone to repurpose your content for you, then also look no further than us here at Content 10X. We offer a fully end-to-end content repurposing service for podcasters and video creators. So go check that out at content10x.com. And also please do follow me on social media. I'm at Content10x on all of the main social media platforms. And also I'm sure you'll find me easily on LinkedIn, Amy Woods. So again, thank you so much for listening to this week's episode, and I will catch you in the next one.